Hi, I'm Sara Sutton. I'm the Regional General Manager for Commonwealth Bank here in the New South Wales ACT region. I've been really fortunate. I've got a wonderfully supportive family. So I'm one of 3 girls. Come from a school teaching family. My dad was principal for many, many years and really supportive. It was an environment of work hard, that's when you'll get the spoils out of life, and really I guess a notion of you can be anything you want to be. My mum, me as a personality is quite a split between my mum and my dad. I think I've got the best and the worst of both of them in me. Mum was a stay-at-home mum, which was wonderful support for us at school. She was at every school event, she was on the P&C, she was always at home helping us. But I think the other side to it is I could see how intelligent Mum was, and she's been a big motivator around you can be anything you want to be. So while I was at school, I used to work at a local store, I don't know if you remember it, Bazaar. So, you know, had lots of beautiful velvet outfits, lots of jewellery and lots of incense. And then, you know, my first couple of years of uni, worked there as well before I joined CBA. I think, you know, certainly in our family, it was something that we all did. We all had part-time jobs at school. And I think it really taught us, one, that, you know what, we need to be financially secure ourselves, and that, you know, there's no plentiful well of money sitting somewhere. But I think it also shows you how to prioritise and juggle.
Well, Sarah and I were friends through a mutual friend for quite a while. We're actually friends for a little while, and then life's twists and turns and decisions that you make, we found ourselves both single, and I had to go to a GTES awards night for our first year apprentice many years ago, and I asked Sarah to come along.
I didn't really actually know at the time that he was asking me out on a date. It was kind of like I just thought, you know, I was doing him a favour because, you know, he had nobody to go with him. And sort of it just blossomed from there, because he did tell me, you know, on the way home, you know, how was the date? And I'm sort of like, what? And, you know, it didn't quite catch on. But yeah, we just get on really well. So it's just gone on from that day since.
We're a Brady bunch, so Sarah bought 2 and I bought 2, and we mixed them all together.
You know, the blend comes together, so we have 4. So Grace is 22 and she moved to Melbourne about 2 years ago. And then we have Georgia. Georgia is nearly 12. And then Lily, who's also nearly 12. Both girls from either side. And they're 10 weeks apart in age, so they're really close friends, which is lovely. And then we have Lewis, our only boy, who is almost 14 and an avid sports lover. I certainly think, you know, when I was a child, I can remember saying, I never want to be like my parents. You know, they're a bit too strict, or they have high expectations. But, you know, and as an adult looking back, you actually see how beneficial that was and how it set those strong foundations. There's a lot of similarities that I now do, you know, the same thing with my own children. Sometimes they even say things and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was my mum coming out of my mouth. But certainly I believe a strong work ethic and the notion of you can be anything you want to be, I'm certainly copying and stealing that and doing that with our kids. The reality is, without support, I can't do my job, or I can't be a mum, or I can't be a wife, because it works in a system. You know, the other part of why Wagga works for us is we do have this great support system. My husband is extraordinary. Chris, you know, 3 weeks out of 4, I'm away at least 2 nights a week. He's very organised. We spend a lot of time together having our Outlook calendar updates. Maybe we need to add a bit more wine and cheese into that. We have lots of grandparent support, and with Brady bunches, you get extra grandparents. Our kids have a lot of out of hours, you know, sports, piano, we've got a saxophone, and that's why we love Wagga. I really don't think it would work for us as a family if we lived anywhere else. So it's a really interesting story of how I've landed at CBA. I was 2 years into uni doing a high school teaching degree at Charles Sturt Uni, and I was pretty bored with it. It wasn't something I loved, but you know, I thought that'd be not a bad job. Obviously my dad thought that was great. And I was at a barbecue with girlfriends who I played netball with, and 3 of them worked for the Commonwealth Bank, and they said, we've got some teller jobs going, why don't you apply? And I was like, oh yeah, cool. And I thought, oh geez, you know, let's not go to uni. I think, you know, a bank job's a decent job. And it just started from there. So I got the job, didn't go back to uni, and sort of started as a teller, and sort of really every 2 years from 2001 to today, I've changed roles within the same company. So I've had lots of different roles. I've had travelling roles, I've had in-branch roles.
It was always pretty clear to me with Sara that she was obviously talented, and that talent was noticed from above within the bank. She got to go to lots of leadership events, conferences and things that were handpicked for high performers. So I always sort of knew that, you know, she would progress, but she is very passionate about her job.
I think in 2010, when I was appointed branch manager of the Wagga branch, which was pretty exciting to run a branch, you know, within your hometown. I've always looked at other people's jobs and went, what do you do? Are you smarter than me? Probably. Maybe not. Maybe I could have a go at it. And I'm really fortunate with CBA that there is so many opportunities, so many, you know, so much investment in your career. So I've been to a lot of leadership programs over the years that have been really beneficial and, you know, taught me so many different skills and sort of to improve myself. My boss got another job, and I got a phone call from our EGM one night, and he says, "Sara, would you like to relieve in the role?" And the first part of me was, "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting, this is so cool, wow." And then the next part of me was, how am I going to do this really big job, you know, covering a whole state, you know, 160 branches? And I just said yes, and then I got the job. You know, when I was looking at the current job I'm in, there was certainly self-doubt. I was, you know, what if I'm asked a question I don't know the answer to? I'm really young compared to most of the other general managers throughout the organisation. You know, will that be held against me, or how will people judge me? So, you know, certainly the brain was in overdrive, and then, you know, just got back to, you know, what have I got to lose? Let's have a crack and see where it leads. And yeah, 2 years in, it's going quite well. So it's really quite interesting, the sort of the female story in banking, because, you know, over the years I've certainly faced discrimination, but interestingly, the most challenges I faced were here in Wagga when I was a female branch manager who was 26, 27, and it was from customers. And really, you know, saying things to me like, you know, I need to speak to the person in charge. And I'm like, well, that's me. And they were sort of like, well, how would you know about X, Y, or Z? Certainly, if I think about the last few years, you know, we're nearly at parity, 50-50 in general managers and executive managers. So it's not, certainly not an issue today in CBA, but I still believe, you know, if you think of broadly outside of the banking industry, we've still got a long way to go, particularly with, you know, sort of CEO roles for women. I just don't like the notion that women can have it all men can have it all. I really believe that life is a trade-off, and we make choices around what's going to work for us, what's going to work for our family, and even in this space of time, what's a priority versus next space of time. So I'm really hesitant to suggest that at any time. I think there's probably far too many books out there that make everything look perfect. And, you know, from an outsider looking in, sometimes I get a lot of comments, oh, how do you keep it all together? You know, how do you say this, look like this, get all these things done? But the reality is there's a huge support system. And the reality also is that I miss out on things, but I make sure that that's in my prioritisation rather than somebody else's. So I think that's an important message. I would hope that the kids would see that we, and particularly me, I showed them that, you know, working hard really delivers dividend. And also, you know, you shouldn't be constrained. And that if you want to go and be an astronaut, well, you can go and be an astronaut, just get started and get into it. I hope that that I've really instilled that sort of notion of you can be anything you want to be, because I think that's important. And I think the other side is, you know, hopefully, you know, I've shown them that being a good person and caring for people matters, and that gets you a long way.